This is episode 1, teaching you how to create a flat style button in Photoshop. Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of UI Beast. My name is Big Alberts, a professional web designer and entrepreneur, and each week we bring you a web design tip to help you achieve success in your career or business. Thanks for spending some time with me. Now let the class begin. Okay, thanks for tuning in on the very first UI Beast episode. I'm going to show you how to create a semi-flat style user interface button that is CSS friendly, and I'm going to show you how to create a hover and selected state. Now, there are a few reasons for showing you guys how to do this. Firstly, when you work with a front-end web developer, it is super important to not aggravate them by letting them do guesswork. You, as a designer, must communicate to them how you envision the buttons to behave. If you don't communicate this, the developer might resort to creating their own button states, or even worse, no button states at all. Secondly, this button is created in a semi-flat style, which means it is extremely CSS friendly. When a button can be coded entirely with CSS, it means that it is easily scalable across multiple devices. So this is more or less what we're going to create. It is a simple button, and it's got a little pseudo shadow over here, and this is what it looks like when you're going to roll over it, and this is what it's going to look like when you've clicked it. So enough talk, let's get into it. Alright, what I'm going to do is create a new Photoshop document, and I'm going to give our document canvas a size, and I'm going to stick with that size, 640 by 360, and make sure it's 72 dpi, the resolution, and I'm going to give it a name and call it button, and click OK. One of the first things I like to do before I start any design work is just to make sure my grids are set to 10 pixels. This is totally a personal preference thing, but I like to set my grids, my guides to around 10 pixels so you can see it. So if I go, if you look at the background there, let me just switch it on. Zoom in a little. Now my grid is set at 10 pixels. You can set your grid to anything you like. I just find 10 pixels gives me enough freedom to get into details. So you can see if I increase my grid here, it's 20, that's 10. So I like that. It's up to you what you want to do. So let's create that button. Firstly, we're going to go to our rectangle tool here, and I'm just going to choose the normal old rectangle tool. I'm going to make this button 60 pixels high by 200 pixels wide, and you can see, there we go, 200 by 60, boom. I'm just going to center this in the middle of the canvas, and I'm going to do that by selecting the rectangular marquee tool. And just draw that marquee tool from edge to edge, and I'm just going to make sure that I select that object, and then you can see I have the align options over here. I'm going to align the guy to the center. There we go. There, I'm deselecting the marquee tool, and I'm just going to switch up the grids for a second by pressing Command, comma. There we go. Right, so our button is here, but it's just not styled exactly the way we want it. So we're going to add some rounded corners and a little pseudo shadow. And how we do that is, I know the shortcut for this is to use the direct selection tool from Photoshop. it's located here in the tools palette. Here's the direct selection tool. But I like to use the shortcuts, so I've pressed A and it's given me the direct selection tool. And what you see over here in the palettes on the right hand side is you get the properties of this square that you've just drawn. And if you go down here, you can see there's some parameters you can set. And these are the corner options for this square that you just created on the canvas. And I'm going to choose a corner option of about 5. There you see. Great. That's looking closer to the final product that we want. And then the next thing, I'm just going to add that little pseudo shadow for us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, let's make sure that's selected. I'm going to go to the effects options and choose drop shadow. And you can let us set some parameters here. I usually switch off global light, and I'm going to make this 90 degrees, and I'm going to create 100% opacity, and I'm just going to switch off these blend modes. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to choose a color. I want that pseudo shadow to be slightly darker than the actual full color of the button. And I've created some swatches over here, and I'm going to choose that guy. And then what I'm going to do is, I don't want that blurry effect. I want it to be a solid full, and I'm just going to reduce the size to 0. There we go. Maybe, yeah, I think I like that. The distance 5 pixels. I think that's good to go. Great. Look at that. We have a button. Almost. What we still need is some text. Let's grab some text, and I'm going to create some text here that says "Buy me," and sort of position it on the button in the center more or less, and just change the color to white. Okay, next thing we want to do is we want to create a hover state for our button. So I'm going to head on over here to the layers palette, and I'm going to use the shortcut Command G, Mac, and I'm just going to name this normal state. There we go. Then what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate this by right clicking on the group and go duplicate group, and I'm going to give it a name. We'll call it hover state. Hover state sounds good. There we go. And another thing we're going to do is we need to have a click state. So just as you click that button, it's nice to have that responsive element where when you click something, something happens. So let me duplicate the hover state here, and I'm going to call it click state. My spelling needs a bit of work, but it's okay. There we go. And I'm just going to rearrange the order here a little bit, and I'm going to make the click state sit below there and drag the hover state just in between the normal state and click state. So what we have here is a couple of buttons on top of one another. So click state, hover state, normal state. Right, so I'm going to focus on the hover state here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, I think I want it to just change the color slightly when you hover over it. And I've pre-selected some colors over here. So I'm going to use a slightly darker color. So that's the original color, and that's a slightly darker color. Okay, so when someone rolls over it, what will happen is that'll be the normal state, and when I hide the normal state, it's just going to show the hover state. Cool, simple. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to focus on the click state. I'm just going to close these guys and show the click state. I'm going to open the folder here, and The click state, I wonder, maybe we can make it interesting and maybe make it seem like you're pressing the button in. And the way we might want to do this is we're going to create that that effect of the button actually sinking into the screen. And we might do this by decreasing the shadow there with about 2 pixels. You can see I'm over here, and see it was 5. I've made it 3 pixels. And we're gonna maybe have to do something else to give the illusion of the button sinking in. And I'm just going to select these two elements in the click state, and I'm going to use my arrow key and just nudge the button down 2 pixels. 1, 2. You see that? And let's see what just happened. Okay, we've got the normal state, hover state. Let's see, normal state. There's the hover state, and there is the click state. Great. So, normal state, when your button hovers over it, and when you click it. And that's it for the first UI Beast episode. I hope it has been helpful. I appreciate that you watched it. And if you have any comments or requests or any kind of feedback, please, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment here on YouTube. You can catch me on Twitter. My Twitter handler is TheUIBeast. You can also get me on email, info@uibeast.com. Alright, that's it. Adios.